This is Sparta!
Hello, Levi here from Spartan Warrior Fitness. I'm here starting off my new podcast. It's been a project I've been working on for the last couple months. And I'm really excited. COVID gave me an opportunity that freed up some time, everything that we were going through. And I've always wanted to do this, so it gave me the opportunity to put my will and energy and focus into this. And I hope you guys enjoy and I can help educate and share some of my knowledge. I want to start off with several episodes that are dedicated to nutrition. They're all going to be joined together and they're going to kind of lead into something I'm very passionate about and I want to talk about with everyone. But today, my focus, I want it to be on ketogenic dieting and ketosis. This is something that is really kind of in the mainstream right now. I've known about this dieting since the 90s when I got into bodybuilding. But I'll give you just a quick backdrop on myself. So I've been in the health fitness industry for since the 90s. I started with reading a book called The Body for Life by Bill Phillips. Led me into a 12-week transformation. Arnold Schwarzenegger was always a hero of mine, admired. I did a 12-week transformation back in 97. And that kind of unlocked a lot of things for me and led me on the path that I am here today through a series of roundabout events. But in 98, I thought I'd take it a little more serious when I met Dorian Yates and listened to him speak, the former Mr. Olympian. And he motivated me to do a show. So back in 99, 2000, I started my competition. What that led me into was learning how to diet. And in order to prep for that show. And I had to take on a diet that was low carbohydrates, high protein. That I've never had full abs, and that was the first time I achieved that state. Mr. Ottawa show won my category. I dropped a ton of weight. I think it started off at about 280, and I ended up at I think it was about 215 on stage. So it was a big cut. I probably cut a little too much because I'm a little aggressive because of it was my first time doing it. And back then, we didn't really have coaches. We had people that gave us advice and they taught us. There wasn't a lot of coaching going on back then, which made it difficult. But I mean, you had your people that in the gym and that kind of were mentors to you, and they would let you in on the secret when you earned your stripes. Being in Ottawa, there was like a bodybuilding hub of natural athletes that were doing the worlds at the gym I was at, and they taught me a lot of things, like Levi Rowbottom, Ron Pierre, and these guys first taught me a lot about this. But anyways, let me get into ketogenic dieting. Okay, so being a trainer for as long as I have and training people for shows, ketogenic dieting definitely works. It's one of the best ways to get lean, but challenging. It has its challenges. Pretty much what it is that when you deprive the body of glucose, which is the glycolic system, that's the main body's energy source. We get it from sugars and stuff like that. We go into a state when it's not present, our next energy system, which is ketosis. We're burning ketones as energy, which is fats. And well, for years I had been storing some excess body fat away just for the moments that, when you go into food deprivation, you have that body storage to kind of get you through those hard times. Unfortunately, we don't have hard times to that extent these days that they did in the past. But nevertheless, that's essentially what you do is you get your body to burn off its own body fat as energy, but also using fats through your diet to help power through your endless workout regime as you prep for a show, or if you're pushing to gain a significant amount of weight loss. Now, the downside to that is fats don't burn as efficiently as glucose. They just don't give you the same feeling. So I discovered this when I decided I had to run for a bus when I was doing my first show. And I ran, I think, 25 yards, and all of a sudden I hit a wall. And the wall was like just a wall of no energy, and my legs felt heavier, like they had blocks sinking in the water. I realized then that this is a different beast, right? So there's a level of drive that has to come where you push the demand on your body. But fortunately, we've gotten better equipped at knowledge of what foods can help minimize some of these things that are challenging, like the foggy brain that you can receive on the ketogenic dieting. There's solutions to that. There's solutions to helping to get from the sugars to burning fat, to make it so that your body gets fat tolerable easily, adapts easier. And I can go into some of those. And there's tools that I learned early to use that help tell the rate at which I was in ketosis, which are very key, and I've used as a trainer. It's kind of like back in like 2010 and 2008, these things set me apart a little bit because I could tell if my clients were in ketosis or not. It wasn't as simple as, oh, this is what you ate, and okay, well, if this works, I get to see proof. And that was a big thing for my clients, big thing for me. I'll explain those in a little bit. The other things is more which type of fats. Like certain fats, they don't have to be metabolized by the body, so they burn rather quickly. And those ones are essential when doing hard exercise while being on a ketogenic diet. Now, if you're not exercising and you're just doing it out of lifestyle, it's a little slower road, obviously, and you don't necessarily need some of these things because you're not putting those demands on your body, but you still find it uncomfortable at the beginning as you're getting fat adjusted, a little bit of headaches and stuff like that as you're getting off the sugar and keto and glucose. Okay, so that being said, now what I found, though, is that as it's become more mainstream, one thing I don't like about it is I'm not a big proponent of the 80-20. So that's kind of like the standard, it's most of the diet comes from just fats, and you start seeing that, and they'll wrap up it'll be a piece of chicken wrapped up in bacon and, eaten with mayonnaise, and your coffee has the butter in it and all the different things, and you make these things called fat bombs and that. Now, I still distinguish, like myself, that there's different types of fats, just like there's different type of carbs, different types of sugars and stuff that have different roles on the body, that have different fibrous contents and stuff. Fats fall into the same category and have different usages by the body. And some help make the skin, some are for brain function, some are for your joints, some are used for the production of testosterone and other hormones of the body. So not all fats are useful and the same. So the ones that are not useful and they don't break down readily as energy, they tend to cause inflammatory reactions to the body, and that's why I choose to leave them out. So when you get into creams and things like that and stuff like that, I don't like the function that they have on my body. And a lot of the times when I'm training with somebody and people that have chosen ketosis, usually a lot of the times they have a problem metabolizing carbohydrates and sugars and already have an autoimmune response to things. So when dairy usually triggers that response for them as well, you find, right, in a good majority of people. So when adding those things in, I think a lot of people fail at that point because I don't think those foods were good for them, and they still cause those inflammatory reactions, and their body's not in a very homeostatic state or getting adjusted. So I like to use fats on the body that have a specific purpose, a specific role, and I like the ones that are more for energy to be centered around my workouts, like the MCT oils and things that are associated very similarly. So I like to take those before my workout, and I like to use animal fats for some of my fuel. So it gives me a good break at times when I'm eating the higher fats, and then as I go through my cut, I can switch over to the more cleaner meats, and that calorie drop also helps with some of that extra last little bit of cut, to get really lean. That's just what I have to do. Now, not everybody has to do that to get ready for show, mind you. Like, I prefer to have carbs in and do, 5 or 6 good low glycemic carb meals, but I unfortunately fall into the category where I got to take my carbs pretty low if I'm going to get to that ultra lean state. Now, I've trained those athletes, though, where they don't have to do that, and there's other people that fall in the middle, and that's about learning your body and learning what's right for yourself. But for the average person just trying to get in shape and lose weight, and they're doing it through ketosis, things like salmon, it's a good choice during that time, some ground beef, and that excellent choice. Now, where people got to be cautious in my mind is that more recently, like what I want to get into and talking about down the road is genetic types. So what I did recently is I did like a genetic testing. And one of the things this told me is that there's certain genes that let us know that we don't metabolize cholesterol as well. And they can indicate that we have a susceptibility somebody might have a genetic susceptibility for heart disease. Now, there's lots of things out there and they say, oh no, it's not safe. But if your body doesn't adjust well to fats in general, then the ketogenic diet, in my mind, if you have a genetic susceptibility, probably not a good idea to be on a diet that's all based in fats. Probably maybe something more paleolistic might be a better approach with the low glycemic carbs and just kind of doing a well-rounded thing. But for a lot of people, though, it works very well, and I've seen very good results. I've used it with my clients a lot, and I've had a lot of success myself with it, but it has its limitations in the sense that, are you going to stay on it forever? That is the question. Now, it works really well, and then after a show, I usually put on some weight, and I kind of get back to eating those type of foods, but not everybody wants to go through that experience. And I use the rebound off the show to put on some muscle, and your body's insulin sensitive, which you eat everything aside, you put on some muscle, you lift heavy. But that's not for everybody, not for the average person. So that is where it becomes challenging and figuring out if this is the right thing for you. And if it just is the right thing and you really don't metabolize carbohydrates and you really react to a lot of them, well, I have some clients that end up in that position where this is what it tells them, that eating this way is a good way for them. And if you think, like, there are people's in this world that do really use a ketogenic diet for all of their life. Like, for example, if you look at the Inuit up north and those North American tribes way up north, they're eating almost all fat. And they're able to, that's perfectly normal for them. And if you look in that environment, every animal has a similar body fat sequence, and fats become extremely important in that cold climate. So there are certain people that do well with it for long term, and they got to stick with it. And that's kind of like where you find what's best for yourself and what path works for you. Now, within ketogenic dieting, there's different variations that have started to form. And what I'd like to kind of go into is one of the things that I started seeing was you had fasted dieting, which intermittent fasting, I'll go into that on another episode, but I started seeing the intermittent fasted dieting merged with ketosis. So you see like an intermittent ketosis. And people are using that fasting period, adding the ketosis element and seeing really good results with that, especially if they had gotten stuck and they weren't happy where they are. Now, I think myself, the intermittent fasting, I'll go into that more in detail, whether or not it's biological factors or like that you kind of trick the metabolism and kind of working a specific way, and I'll go into that. Or is it just calories, cutting more calories out, and that's what generates the extra loss? Now, that my concern is I always, when I train somebody and I'm getting ready for a show and stuff, I try to keep as much in as possible until things have to go. And they have to go by the results. So if you're not happy where you are at and you're not ready, then we got to play our next card. And that could be pulling some extra carbs out, or pulling a few more calories out this way, or burning more calories, or whatever. But we got to play more cards in order to get where we want to be, for what our goals are, or setting up a lifestyle that is livable for ourselves long term. So that's another element that formed. Now we see all these supplements that have come out, and one of the supplements that I found useful for ketogenic dieting was chromium picolinate. Has to be the picolinate form. It can't be chromium HCl or anything like that. It has to be the picolinate form. But what this does is it's a sugar. It's used with diabetic patients. Totally harmless, natural supplement. But what it does is it helps utilize sugars and balance sugar levels. So this is good for when you're going from having sugars in your diet to not having sugars diet and not craving. Excellent supplement, works extremely well. You can pick it up anywhere and rather inexpensive. It's only about $20, but a really good tool that if you're thinking about doing this and you're struggling with that period to get through to it, it works very well. Another supplement or another tool I recommend for testing to see if you're in ketosis or the level at which you're burning is keto strips. Now, keto strips are something you can buy at the pharmacy, and you do a urinalysis of yourself to see the waste product of how much fat you're metabolizing in your urine. And that can indicate whether or not you're doing it right or you've got too many carbs still in your diet. And that's very individualistic. Like I said, some people can have some certain amount in their life and they're going into ketosis. Other people have to cut further back and even watch certain types of vegetables like that they got to eat. So this is something that you've got to discover for yourself. And maybe you're doing something that's just slightly off. Like dairy for some people, don't allow them to get into ketosis because of the lactase and there's just too much and a couple other factors. But those strips work extremely well, and you can also buy a monitor that I've used with my clients before, and that gives you a more accurate. So if you're somebody who really likes numbers, really follows things, the more technology you have, the more you're into something, and you want to make this a lifestyle, that monitor is a good thing because it really tells you the rate of where you're at. So that if you do go outside and have some cheap, reward meals or just to keep your metabolism going and kind of shock it or whatever, you know when you're back in, you know when you're back out, you really get an idea of where you're at. And after you do your cardio, or it's a monitor you can buy online. Walmart online sells it. Other places, and they test the rate of which your ketosis is. So those are two good tools. The strips are, I think $10, $12. You just got to call around to the pharmacies that have them, but they're getting pretty popular right now, so you should be able to find them pretty much anywhere. Now, I've found that you just can't pee on them. I found that the best thing to do is to pee in a paper cup and then submerge it completely. I know it sounds a little gross. Maybe wear some gloves. But you might want to do this just here and there at the beginning just to get used to that feeling. Because once you know the feeling of ketosis and the indicators that come from it, you don't need that. And people that have been on it know what I'm talking about. Okay, so other things that are become usable is MCT oils, medium chain triglyceride, a great supplement that breaks down as a fat, but breaks down to energy really quick. Good to use before a workout or to start your day. Put it in your coffee or a smoothie. Excellent supplement if you're into this lifestyle and you're doing it. Totally recommend it. Makes a big difference. Now they've made shakes, like powdered shakes based with ketones, and those help last. Like they break down slowly, so that rather than getting this kind of brain fog that you get or whatever in between food or meals, this kind of breaks it down slowly so that you avoid that and you still have very good clarity, good energy. But you can find those supplements at Popeyes. They're ketone shakes. They do work. I've had them. I tend to really I've only used them once consecutively, but they do work pretty well. So I do recommend those products. Yeah. So that's kind of like really what I want to talk about ketosis, and that's my first episode. I hope you guys enjoyed, but take care, and I hope you tune in for the next episode.
This